Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Andre and I'm your bookworm, and by me holding this mic, you know perfectly well that I shall be talking about Lord of the Mysteries, the anime adaptation. So today we are reviewing episode 4. I know that episode 5 has already been released. I haven't watched it yet. It's been a bit crazy here because I'm moving houses, so the schedule will be a bit delayed compared to how the episodes are coming out, but I hope this is still useful and I hope it's still creating discussion between people. I mean, people have been commenting. I love when they put in their opinions or just correct me, because honestly, I do get a few things wrong and some things just go way over my head. Like, for example, the last episode when I asked the fans if the characters, when they're fighting and they're speaking, it seems like it was a poem that they were speaking, and I was wondering if it was Mandarin, if they are actually speaking Mandarin in a poem format. But it's actually, one of the fans said they might just be speaking Hermes, and that never crossed my mind, even though that is the most logical thing that they could have been doing. But anyways, that is what these reviews are for. So let's get on with it and let's talk about episode 4. So we start this episode by looking at a worshipper of the true creator. And I don't think we see this in the web novel, or at least not so directly, of seeing him do this on a real-time basis. But I enjoy it thoroughly because I think it gives us a bit more context of how things are happening, instead of just getting Klein's POV or Audrey or Alger. We do get to see how things are developing around the world to create the scenarios that Klein faces. Also, there's an Easter egg that happens from time to time, which I think is related to the ending of this season and the ending of Volume 1. I won't say anything because we haven't gotten there, even though this episode will be spoilery for what happened previously. But if you know what I mean with those feathers that show up from time to time, I have a theory for that. Let's see how the season ends. But going back to the worshipper, we see him getting a bit deranged, doing some things that the true creator worshippers do that are basically insane. But that is good because I think the true creator believers should be like that. So I think that was done very well. Then we go back to Klein and O'Neill, and we see Klein learning some ritualistic magic, which I think was well done. In the previous episodes, I always mentioned that the magic seems to be a bit overreactive, in the sense that everything seems to be just too epic. But I thought that the ritualistic magic was just done perfectly. It wasn't too flashy, it was just supposed to be something minimal, but that there are differences created in the spirit world. But I think it was also useful because it can show that even though it's something very simple, it can have deep impacts depending on who you worship for or what thing you ask for. And the other thing is, I thought this was a funny scene because I think it was portrayed very similarly to what the web novel does. Seeing the old Neil and having this a comedic time instead of all just being quite dark and quite sinister, I think it was a very well done, and it matched well with the story. So good points here for the anime adaptation. The only thing that I must mention is the lack of a dark market, a secret market where people trade beyond their things or amulets, all of those, because that happens in the web novel, and we that actually becomes quite relevant throughout the first volume. So I'm curious if they just removed it completely or if they're going to introduce it later on, because one of the girls we see in this episode getting a certain item, they should have gotten that item from this market, but they didn't. So I'm not entirely sure if the market will show up at all. But anyways, after this scene, we see Klein finally get to the Divination Club, which was a part I was very excited about because, again, very relevant to the story. But on top of that, it's also a scene where you can see Klein practice a lot more of his magic, of his powers as a seer. And I thought the Divination Club was depicted correctly, at least in my mind it was very similar to that. Maybe not have the receptionist at the outside of the club just trying to get people in, but I mean, that is very minimal. I think doing that or doing it the other way around, it was fine either way. And then of course we see Klein getting some of the taste of that divination with some of the people in that club and eventually signing up for it. Of course, the signing up wasn't as complex as it was in the web novel, because in the web novel we do see Klein worrying a lot about the money to be able to get into that club, but in the anime he just gives it he is being reimbursed by the government imposed rules of reimbursements for jobs that Emperor Roselle imposed. So that's just another way of showing that Emperor Roselle had a lot of influence. And then of course, like I mentioned, we get the trigger for the next scene in this episode, which is the girl receiving a mirror, and that mirror being given to from the person we eventually realize is the worshipper of the true creator. After this scene, we actually get a bit of slice of life, which was very desired, not only by me, but by multiple, because we did seem to have everything being very rushed throughout the first 3 episodes. And so having some parts where it's just a bit lull, where we can breathe in and just get used to how Klein goes through his life and see what is happening, I think it helps a lot the fans to just catch up with everything that has happened. And then we go back to the Fog Realm to have our next gathering, which was also very exciting. We see Audrey and we see Alger again. And at this gathering, we get notified by Audrey that she has drank her potion, but on top of that, something else has drank the potion called Spectator, and that something was her dog Susie. Again, this was a funny scene. We get a flashback of how everything happened, and it creates some laughs, but also it creates a big question, which is what happens if a dog drinks the potion. So after this, we also see this new detail, which is symbols showing up behind these characters, behind Audrey and behind Alger and even Klein. And these symbols, I think they represent the pathways that they are in. I'm still not 100% sure, because it might be that, or it might be related to the cards that they chose to represent in the tarot. So the Emperor, the Empress, or the Hanged Man, all of those. But I think it is more related to the pathways. Once the gathering ends, we see some passing of time, which again, brilliant, because we do want to have this feeling that time is passing by, not that Klein is just going on a different trigger event every single day and that everything's just happening super quickly. So that those few seconds of just seeing the time passing, that allows us to understand that things are going normally, not everything is just happening all the time, and that Klein can just learn some tricks and learn some abilities before going on to the next adventure. But so once we get back to the normal time, we see that they're going to Melissa's friend's birthday party. Then things are going well until the girls start playing with the mirror and with mysticism, which is a lesson that we learned very early, that do not play around with mysticism, because you're gonna invoke some dark creature, if not a dark god, and they will probably kill you. I think here we deviate a bit from the web novel. I think in the web novel, it was treated very hush-hush, in the sense that Klein was taking care of it, but he was trying to hide from everyone that he didn't have the powers, or he doesn't have any involvement in it. Whereas in the anime, it was very much Klein taking action and having to do all of it by himself. Of course, in the anime, it was an action-filled scene, so there was a lot more action compared to the web novel, which I don't say that it is a bad thing, because in the web novel, I think if we had translated that directly to the anime in a one-to-one translation, it wouldn't have been that good. People would have been a bit bored maybe. So having this action field might have helped the fans, the new ones that have never read the web novel, to just stay hooked and think that it was really cool. At least the people I watched it thought so. But one of the main things that we see in this scene is the fact that ritualistic magic can be really powerful and can help a lot. So the message is the same between the web novel and the anime, and that is that the ritualistic magic is important. So because the message went across in both medium, then I think it was fine. And so once all of this scene ends and we finally go back to Klein being fine, we also see the perpetrator of this ritual, or of this mysticism, mirror, whatever, being punished by some other figure. And right after that, we see Captain Dunn seeing the true creator form, which is a giant turned upside down, crucified in a cross, turned upside down, like I said, with one giant eye. I think this representation of the true creator was done really well. It was even better than what I imagined, because I don't know, I wasn't imagining something very concrete, but that definitely made it through. And I thought it was very epic, very ominous. You don't really understand what it is, you don't understand what is going to happen in the next episode, and then the episode just ends, so we're very keen to watch the next one. I think even this part had a bit of a Cthulhu feel to it, in the sense that it's very ominous, it's so powerful, it's almost beyond human comprehension. And after the credits, we have a scene that releases a bit of tension, which is pretty much Audrey waking up, trying to get ready, and just dancing around with Susie, her dog, until Susie suddenly speaks, and she realizes that Susie, the dog, can now speak from drinking the potion. And that's basically the end of the episode. So yeah, I think this episode did a lot of things right, even though the episode had a lot of different things compared to the web novel. It was able to transmit good messages about the ritualistic magic. It was able to convey well the divination club, also Audrey with her spectator potion, and also Susie drinking said potion. So I think all of these things were done well. We had some extra things like the worshipper of the true creator, seeing that perspective added to the anime, in my opinion. And I'm curious to see how the rest of the episodes will go. I mean, we're not even halfway through the season, but so much has happened. But I mean, that's fine because in the web novel, a lot of things happen. So it's good that we're now, at least, that the first three episodes went by and they were really fast paced. This episode slowed down a bit, and I hope that the next ones not necessarily slowed down as well, but like at least maintain the same rhythm, let's say. But now I think it's your time to tell me what you think. Did you like this episode? Do you think that the next one is even better, or the previous ones were better? Do you like more the web novel over the adaptation? Just comment down below and let's discuss about it. And of course, if you're new, don't forget, subscribe, like the content, and I shall be seeing you on Thursdays and Sundays as long as my schedule allows, because life is getting a bit chaotic here. So let's hope I can deliver as much as you guys need. Yeah, that's it. See you soon.